every year we sit in my barn and we work on stuff and we talk about all the things we're going to do this summer, between bike rides and campouts and trips and all this stuff. And come summer, it typically tends to be kind of hard to get everybody together to do so. So this year, right off the bat, Joe's been 100% on board with everything I've come up with or any idea that we've talked about. He just says, let me ask the wife, and she's been on board. So he's ready and willing to just get on the bikes and go, which is great. This year we started hanging out with Mo. He had a couple of solo camping trips planned, and we ended up touching base with him and tagging along, and it ended up being a good time. He's always willing to go and ride and step outside of his comfort zone and never complains, which is awesome. So having him along for the ride's been great too. It's really motivating to have these guys in your corner, and it kind of helps you push you outside of your comfort zone when it comes to taking trips that are farther away than you typically go. When we found out about splitting lanes, dodging gutters, we were pretty stoked, knowing that New Jersey's not too far away, and it was something that we didn't have to take a lot of time off work for. Figure if we take Friday off, then we can come back on Sunday and be back to work for Monday. So knowing that was coming up, we were pretty stoked, ran out, bought tickets, and then of course the event got canceled, which was a total bummer. Seeing a couple of friends down there that were bummed about it too, we hit them up and said, hey, what are you guys up to? And I ended up hitting up Chris LaCour and saying, hey, I know you're not too far from there, like any recommendation on campsites? And he recommended Worthington State Forest in Columbia, New Jersey. So I ended up hitting up the guys in the group chat right away, and it was something that we booked immediately. We got a group site hoping that we could kind of move the party from splitting lanes to this and hopefully have plenty of room for anybody that was willing to come and hang out and kind of party in the woods with us. Unfortunately, we came up super short on that. It ended up just being the four of us, but it was still a good time regardless. So the week before the trip, I hit up the boys about getting together and having a maintenance day. I knew there were parts on my bike that I wanted to change out. I wanted to swap my Bendix carb for a Super B. Fuel lines, I swapped my petcock. I was having issues with either fuel or spark, but it was intermittent and it was hard to chase. So to avoid anything, I swapped out my coil, plugs, wires, my condenser and the points. And then I needed a transmission swap, so I changed my fluid there and adjusted my chain and stuff. So I thought I was about ready to go. Of course, you can never really plan. That whole week I was planning on doing like a shakedown run to work each day, and I ended up having my seat chafe through my positive battery cable because it was routed wrong. And then my clutch cable snapped. So it was all, preventative stuff that I had to take care of. The cable was never properly adjusted or lubed, and the battery cable was definitely run incorrectly, like over the top of the oil tank instead of through the channel at the bottom. So I ended up taking care of that stuff, and I was kind of bruised and battered from that, but I said fuck it and full send. Mo came and crashed at my house Thursday night. We woke up at 4:15 Friday morning, and then Joe met me at my place. We ended up swinging through to the closest gas station and then hopped right on the highway. Taking off, we were ready to go. We made it a whole 4 miles before my seat moved just enough to make contact with a circuit breaker and pop my breaker. I pulled over for a minute. It reset itself. We ended up pushing on. It happened 1 or 2 more times before our first fuel stop in Connecticut, where I pulled the seat off. I duct taped the entire bottom of the seat pan just to make sure it wasn't going to make contact with anything, and it didn't give me any more issues for the rest of the trip. But we moved on there and got to one more fuel stop in Connecticut and grabbed some breakfast, and then we crossed the border into New York. Once we got into New York, we started hitting some cloudy areas and some pretty cool elevation changes, but the sky started to spit a bit and it started to sprinkle. We pulled over and suited up with our rain suits and just tried to keep going and hoping we weren't going to hit too much of it. We got through New York with no problem, just a little bit of sprinkles. Not a big deal. Once we got into New Jersey, we hustled down. We hit our last gas stop before the campsite, and we all kind of crawled off the bikes. Me and Joe laid down on the lawn for a little bit and kind of stretched out. Once we got back on the bikes, headed towards the campsite, we were hoping to be there at like 1 o'clock, and we ended up rolling in at about 3, I think it was. And I was trying to get a hold of Chris. Service was terrible. We checked in at the campsite, started setting up the tents and everything, and as soon as we did, it just started to pour. We were just standing in a circle with our rain gear on, kind of shooting the shit, trying to figure out where Chris was. He was dodging raindrops on the way because he didn't have rain pants or anything. So we ended up meeting up with him right up the street. I said, you know, what do you want to do? You want to go set up, or do you want to go grab lunch or dinner at that point? And he was like, screw it, let's go grab some food. There's no point in setting up a tent in the rain. So we shot over the border into Pennsylvania and hit a Walmart. Bought some some warm clothes because I didn't even bring a hoodie with me or anything. I bought a new rain suit because mine was pretty beat up from the ride, and then we grabbed some snacks and stuff. We shot up the street and found a little Irish pub. We stopped, grabbed some food, froze our asses off. The AC vent was right above us and we were all soaked, so it kind of beat the shit out of us for a couple of minutes, and we finished up and decided we were going to head towards the camp again. Once we got back towards the state line and crossed into New Jersey, the skies just looked terrible again. Once we get to the campsite, our goal was to stop at the store there and grab some firewood because there's no little convenience store, grocery store, anything close by. So we had to be back by 8. We got there just in time at like 7:40, just to find that the campground had lost power and they ended up closing up the store early and going home. So we were shit out of luck with no firewood for the night. We were hanging out at the picnic table with a couple of pop-up lanterns and just kind of shooting the shit until we all decided it was time for bed. That ride kind of beat the shit out of us, and it was definitely time to get a fresh start for tomorrow. The next morning we woke up and gathered around the picnic table and kind of tried to decide what we wanted to do. Joe and Mo, being the reasonable adults, talked about, there's a hurricane on the way, we should probably think about packing up camp tonight and getting home. So we were planning on staying through Sunday, but we ended up leaving Saturday afternoon and just trying to beat the storm home. Talked to Chris. He was down for a ride, so we ended up going with him for a little while. He took us to this little pie pastry shop for breakfast, which was absolutely delicious. A little hole-in-the-wall place that was, it's one of the ones that you just hope to find on a trip like that. We grabbed some food, and he took us up through the Poconos in this giant circle. We get to the top of the circle, and there was like a big cornfield we stopped at, and over the top of the corn you could see the Delaware Gap where we camp in, right where the Delaware River runs through the mountains. So we get to see that from there, and it looked like it was so far away. It was so cool.
There ain't no easy way out.
we started heading back towards the camp. Once we got close, we pulled over and said our goodbyes to Chris. He headed home. We ended up shooting out and hitting Walmart one more time just to get some last minute stuff before we departed. And on our way back to the campsite, we stopped, and I noticed that my speedometer stopped working. My mileage had just stopped at 400 on the trip. I was like, okay, I know we've definitely done more than that so far. And Joe goes, oh, well, did you pop a fuse? And I said, no, it's mechanical. Why? And he goes, oh, because your headlight's not working either. And I went, oh, shit. So I ended up burning out a headlight bulb. My floorboard fell off. I had to, bungee that back on. The little isolators wore out, and it didn't want to stay on. So right then and there, I had like 3 things fighting against me, and it kind of gave me a hollow feeling in the pit of my stomach, knowing that we have at least a 5.5 hour ride home with some mechanical issues. We got back to the campsite and started packing up our stuff. We got all the tents broken down and everything and strapped them onto the bikes. And we ended up hitting the road at about 2 o'clock, and we made it through New Jersey pretty quickly. Got into New York, where we hit some traffic right before the Tappan Zee Bridge. Our goal was to avoid the GW at all costs. And of course, once we got closer to the bridge, there were these big signs that said severe weather warning, avoid travel on Sunday. So that kind of helped solidify our decision to go home. It made us feel like it was definitely the right decision. Once we get over the bridge, I knew we weren't too far from Connecticut, so we were just about due for a fuel stop, and we pushed until we made it to Connecticut. Pulled off, rearranged my bag because it was leaning a little bit, strapped everything back down, grabbed an energy drink, filled up, and then we got back on the highway. As we were going down, we started to hit some rain, pulled off the highway under an overpass, and I asked the guys, like, hey, do you want to suit up? There's kind of clear skies ahead. They said, no, let's keep pushing. So we got back out in traffic and pushed on. Probably about 10 miles later, we ran into some more dark clouds and it started to rain. We pulled off again, started suiting up, getting ready to go, and then we got into it pretty good. The rain started to come down, and we just pushed along, and me and Joe were riding, pretending we're rowing boats and stuff, just trying to make the best of it. And once we got past that, we were towards our next fuel stop when the sky started to clear up, the sun started to set, the sky just cast this crazy pink glow. We fueled up, grabbed some dinner, and then hit the road, knowing that we weren't too far from home. So we pushed through Connecticut into Rhode Island, And as we got closer to Providence, my bike started to buck, and I knew I was either losing fuel or spark. So we pulled off the highway underneath the overpass and decided we were going to strip the rain gear. It was pretty clear skies at that point. You could see the stars and everything. So ditched the rain gear, started playing with the bike a little bit. I noticed that the spade connectors to the top of the coil were making a terrible connection. They looked like they were pretty corroded and not clamped on very well. So I gave them a crimp and cleaned them up a bit. And as soon as I did, the bike fired right back up and ran great. We got back onto the highway and shot down to the next gas station, gave our final fuel up, and then pushed towards Providence. Once we got into Providence, Mo branched off on 95, heading back towards Boston, and me and Joe shot 195 down to 24. He branched off at 24, and I kept going. It's all for sure. It's useless to try. Try to keep from going under. My days are looking numbered. I took a second, now I'm broken. This life I'm barely ever holding. It's over now, you see. You keep pulling at my seams. Forget you and a horse you're rolling on. Down on my luck, but I never really had now. I soften up the blow. Once I got home, I pulled into the driveway, unloaded my stuff, and decided, I can deal with this tomorrow. So I ended up going in, sitting down, hanging out, and just kind of thinking about, our decision to leave early. And I knew it was definitely the right choice on Sunday morning when I woke up and it was raining. Much better to hit an hour's worth of rain than, 9 hours worth of rain or whatever. Which is what it took us to get home with the technical difficulties and fuel stops and everything else. So definitely the right choice. I wish it lasted longer, but we've got plenty more planned this summer, so I know there's going to be a lot more great trips here. I'm really grateful for these dudes for coming along and tagging along. Mo and Joe for being there through every breakdown, hopping off the bikes, asking what I need, making sure we're ready to go and keep pushing on. These dudes don't complain at all. They just get on the bikes and we ride. Chris, huge thanks to him for coming out and hanging out even in the shitty weather, and for the recommendation of the campsite. It was a hell of a little spot right on the border. We did about 720 miles in 2 days. Got to ride through a few states that we haven't. We covered 5 states total. So it was an absolute blast, and I can't wait for the next one.